What's going on, everybody? Zach back here with another episode of Clutch Crew Sports, and this is going to be a fun week of football that we just had that we're going to be talking about, and the highly anticipated buy or sell topics are going to be coming up in this episode. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let me introduce you to the rest of the crew.
What's going on, guys? It is Connor, the co-host with the most, and I'm excited to discuss all the craziness that happened in week 2 and discuss some success that I had going on the lock board this week. So I'm pretty happy with myself this week.
And y'all, what is going on here? This is Eric, your ranting co-host. I could rant about how my lock board performance went this week. Had a couple of close calls there, but didn't go my way. Especially bitter about my Jags losing to the Titans. Still bitter, but I gotta put that aside for now and get to the episode. We'll be talking about all this stuff, so looking forward to it.
What's up, guys? It's Nate here again. Looking forward to talking about another week of some good NFL games. Like Eric, I didn't do too good on the lock board last week again. Hoping to change that around this time. I think I got some good ideas, so excited to get into it.
Yeah, and cross your fingers for Nate's internet this time because it was a struggle last time.
I've got a tropical storm heading my way, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Man, Texas just getting hit hard. Normally, it's where I'm at that gets hit the hardest, but.
Yeah, so here comes another one.
All right. Yeah, so as usual, we're going to start off with Around the Shield, talking about NFL-related topics, and we really just got one thing we're going to be doing for this episode about the NFL, so I'll go ahead and transition to that slide and let Connor explain what it's going to be about.
Yeah, so we did this last year. We did this after week 1 last year, but I decided that we should probably wait like one more week this year just to get like a little bit further into the season. So we've got 12 topics that we're going to discuss, that we're going to talk about whether we want to buy and sell. So like, I guess to give an example of this isn't one of the topics, but like, if someone said like, oh, the Jets are going to the Super Bowl this year, then like we would all put our pictures over in the sell category because we don't think that's going to happen. Or if one of us, for some crazy reason, thought that was going to happen, then we put that over in the buy category.
Not me.
I was going to say, what are you talking about, dude? Sam Darnold's a god. Like,
if you listen to Jets fans on Twitter, then you would think he's a god. But yeah, so we're going to do this for 12 different topics, and it's going to be kind of rapid fire here. So I guess we'll go ahead and get into the first one. So a 2-0 start for the Arizona Cardinals, a win over the 49ers that I think a lot of people didn't see coming, and then a pretty dominant victory over the Washington football team this past Sunday. So do you guys think that Arizona is now a serious playoff contender?
All right, so we have it is going to be the first one's always interesting for these things. So obviously,
my picture's behind everybody.
Yeah,
you're peeking out there. A lot of people aren't seeing this right now, so I'll explain it, and then we'll start talking about it. But I was the only one to press sell. Nate, Connor, and Eric all pressed buy, so they're believing it. I'll go ahead and explain my reasoning for not believing this. Quite frankly, they're still in the toughest division in football. They're 2-0, but beating Washington I don't really view as a quality win. The week's 1 win was good, but I want to see them for a little bit more time, string off some more wins, and I'm still really concerned about the O-line. They have a flashy offense, but with that O-line there, injuries can happen, and I'm still worried about this team. I don't view them as a threat yet. What about you guys? Who do you think? Who's the most confident on your side?
I guess I'll go because I was the only one at the start of the season to claim that Arizona was going to make the playoffs. So I guess I'll continue my streak of I said from the start that Arizona was going to make the playoffs, and I mean especially that win over San Francisco. Obviously, this week San Francisco lost a lot of people to injury, but that was before San Francisco lost, Nick Bosa and Raheem Mostert and Jimmy G and all these other people to injuries. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray is on fire. DeAndre Hopkins has been a fantastic addition to this team, and I think it's the underrated part about this team that no one talks about is the defense. I mean, the defense managed to hold the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, the 49ers are also known for their defense, but they held them to only 20 points. A team that went to the Super Bowl and you held them to 20 points, I'd say that's pretty impressive. And then, obviously, I mean, I'm with Zach. I don't think Washington's that big of a win, but I mean, if you want to talk about the offensive line problems, Washington managed to get 8 sacks on Philadelphia, and that was one of the reasons why they won. But Kyler Murray stayed fairly clean in that game against the Washington football team, so I'm looking for good things out of the Cardinals.
Yeah, and you mentioned the injuries too, being before Arizona beat San Francisco, but so that made that one more quality. But in addition to that, those injuries are obviously going to affect San Francisco going forward. So I think, especially with there being an extra playoff slot this year too, and then with the injuries within their division now with San Francisco, I believe Arizona has a strong chance at it.
All right. So I'm going to move on to the next one here. So number 2, going from a team that's undefeated to a team that is 0-2. Are the Minnesota Vikings the worst team in the NFC North this season?
Oh shoot! I think I'm behind all 3 of y'all.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically all of us picked sell on this one. Does anyone want to make their case as to why they think the Vikings definitely aren't going to be the worst? I'll leave it up to you guys.
Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
point.
I will say that we're going to be talking about Chicago a little bit later too, but I mean, I think they're too talented. I mean, obviously Kirk Cousins had an absolutely atrocious game against the Colts, but I don't see that being the norm. And their other loss was to the Packers, who are looking pretty good right now. So
yeah, all right. So there you go, guys. We are all not buying that. I'm waiting for my face to come back on this. Okay, there we go.
All right. So we'll move on to number 3 now. So probably one of the craziest comebacks I've seen in a really long time by the Dallas Cowboys the other day against the Falcons. That onside kick was, I think the Falcons should go and, I don't know, maybe they should fire somebody for that. Probably the special teams coordinator needs to get fired for what happened on that onside kick. Nobody falling on it. But the big reason why I've got Dallas on here is because obviously they gave up 39 points to the Falcons and had to claw their way back. So is the Dallas Cowboys, will their defense hold them back from being a contender this year?
Oh, interesting. Our first 2-2 split. So Connor and I
Wow, Zach and I are agreeing on something?
I know.
Shocker!
Connor and I are buying this, and Eric and Nate are selling on this. Connor, do you want to give a reason here for our side?
I mean, I think it's just more so like the fact that the 2 outings that I've seen of the Dallas defense, I mean, this is what we talked about coming into the season.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a part of the NFC East episode, but this would have been my reasoning that the Cowboys, there's no question they have a talented offense. I mean, Dak Prescott's not as good as some people say he is, but he's definitely not as bad as some people say he is too. Like, he's definitely a very solid quarterback, and obviously probably the best receiving group in the entire league right now with, kind of them and Tampa Bay are kind of fighting for that, but like definitely top 2 receiving group in Ezekiel Elliott and one of the best offensive lines. So it's just like, Atlanta's not supposed to be that good of a team. And when you're having to claw back, at one point they were down like 39-24. So all credit to their offense, but that's not going to be the norm. Like, if you're giving up 39 points, you're not going to win too many games.
I agree. But Nate and Eric, what about you guys? You selling this?
Okay, I'm selling this. I mean, I'm definitely in agreement in terms of the sense that like Dallas doesn't have like an amazing defense or anything. But if you watch that game, Dallas committed like 4 turnovers in the first quarter. And so that gave Atlanta a lot of short fields. And actually 2 of them, the defense managed to prevent them from getting touchdowns, even though they started on like Dallas's 30-yard line. So the 39 points is a little misleading. And also, too, against the Rams, while they gave up a lot of yards, they still didn't give up a ton of points at the end of the day. So, like I said, I don't think they have an amazing defense. I'm not saying that, but I don't necessarily think their defense is going to fully hold them back in the future. They are still playing in a really weak division, especially now that the Giants aren't going to have Barkley for the rest of the year. So I think they're going to be fine. I mean, we'll see what happens come playoff time if they get there, but at least for the season, their defense is not going to hold them back.
Real quick, Nate, I know you haven't really been high on Dallas at all this upcoming season, but are you in agreement with Eric, or are you more so selling this in the fact that you don't think Dallas is a contender at all, like with or without a defense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of Dallas. I do think they're usually overrated. I think it's the same this year, but I think I'm more so in agreement with Eric here. I mean, they didn't look bad. They lost week 1, or they lost week 1 to the Rams, but they didn't look bad in that game. Only gave up 20 points, and then the Falcons' loss was bad. But obviously, I think the Falcons, they're not a great team, but they have great offensive players. Like what Eric mentioned, they turn the ball over a lot, which doesn't help their defense out. I mean, I think it's too early to say they're gonna be the weak link, especially once you see them play the Giants twice, see them play Washington twice, then you're gonna start looking at least a little bit better here. But
yeah. All right, yeah. So we'll move on to the next one. Connor, tell us about the next topic.
All right. So number 4 on this list, I mentioned we were going to get to San Francisco. So obviously, it must have been like a full moon times 5 on Saturday, or because something happened on Sunday that caused like a million injuries to happen. And one of the team that was the most hit by injuries was the 49ers. They were already without George Kittle and Deebo Samuel, and now Raheem Mostert is going to be out for a little bit. Jimmy G is going to be out for a little bit, and Nick Bosa is done for the season with an ACL tear. So with all these injuries happening in San Francisco, and given their tough division, will this cause the 49ers to miss the playoffs?
Okay, another 2-2 split. Nate and I are buying that San Francisco will miss the playoffs. Connor and Eric on the other side, not buying that, selling that. So I'll go first here for the bias side, and Nate can just agree with me or add a point if he wants. But the Nick Bosa injury is huge for them. He's the heart and soul of the defense, and I know Sherman's been hurt. Basically, their whole defensive line now has been hurt. Solomon Thomas also out for the year. The real strength of the 49ers is their defense, and that's been decimated with injuries, and you lose your starting quarterback. I just don't see how they can rally from this and make the playoffs, considering they still got to play the Rams twice, the Seahawks twice, the Saints, the Packers. They still have a really tough schedule ahead of them. I just don't see them winning enough games. I think they won't win the division, and the 3 wild cards will go to either New Orleans or Tampa. Probably another two NFC West teams also other than that is what I'm thinking. So, I'm buying that statement. Nate, did I say everything you thought of too?
Pretty much, and plus, like to add, they got to play. We just talked about Arizona. You got to play them twice a year and see DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray without your 2 best edge rushers. So definitely not looking great for them.
All right, what about Connor and Eric on the other side? Why do you think that they still have a chance to make the playoffs?
I think it's more so just like for me, one thing, the extra playoff spot, I think helps a lot because I think, more so than ever this season, a 500 record is a good chance of getting to the playoffs. And I mean, and also obviously Bosa's done for the year and Solomon Thomas is done for the year, but like all the rest of these guys, they're going to get back. Like Deebo Samuel and Richard Sherman are really close to coming back. Richard Sherman will be out next week again, but he should be back week 4. Jimmy G and Raheem Mostert, like Mostert's injury wasn't that serious. So a lot of these guys, and Kittle should be coming back soon too. So a lot of these guys, especially on offense, are going to come back soon. And I think their secondary, like especially when Sherman comes back, is going to hold up enough. I'm not saying they're going to, they're going to get a wild card at best, and probably going to be the 7th seed. But I do still think there's enough talent and depth there to make the playoffs.
Yeah, just to kind of echo that too, I know you're talking about most likely 2 NFC South teams will get in, another NFC West team will probably get in, but I don't see another NFC East team getting in. And then the way the NFC North is playing, other than the Packers, I don't know if I see another NFC North team getting in either. So with that extra playoff spot, like Connor said, I think they still can be okay. I don't, obviously I predicted them getting the conference championship before. I don't think I see that happening now, but.
So you think the Rams are the only team then in the West not making the playoffs? Because if New Orleans and Tampa make it, all 4 NFC West can't make it then.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams are 2-0 right now, but they played 2 NFC East teams. So I obviously I don't want to like undersell that and say like, oh, they're not good, but like I just haven't seen the Rams be tested yet. So I can't really fully judge them just yet. But
I was just wondering, Yeah,
I mean, it would be crazy though if all 4 NFC West teams got in with 7 spots. It is technically possible, but but I still think the 49ers have a good chance with their weapons coming back for the most part. So but it's for me. I picked Sell, but it's almost still a little too early to tell. But so I guess that's it.
All right, let's get to the next one.
All right, so next one, we obviously saw Justin Herbert come in and play against the Chiefs, and he performed pretty well by a lot of estimations. I know a lot of people were saying that Herbert was going to be like, by far like one, the 3rd best between Tua and Burrow, but he had a pretty good performance against KC. So, with the fact that Burrow is playing on Cincinnati and, hasn't had 2 fantastic games yet, is Justin Herbert starting to get into that conversation and possibly win the Offensive Rookie of the Year?
It's a unanimous sell to that question. Do one of you guys want to give a reasoning? Because I don't have a great one, but
I think I know what one of your reasons would be is the fact that Anthony Lynn has said that whenever Tyrod Taylor is healthy, he's going to be the starter for some god awful reason, especially after the way that Herbert played in that game. I don't know why Tyrod would still be the starter. So. That's my thing. I think Anthony Lynn is going to hold Herbert back. And,
that's real, but also too, the thing going in favor for Herbert is that there's not been like a super so far. There's not like Burrow isn't 2-0. Like there's a chance, but like there's so many other guys that could be just as deserving. Like you said, if he doesn't get the chances to play, he's not gonna get this award. So it's as simple as that. We'll move on to the next one now.
All right, so I'm sure Nate has been pretty familiar with this, seeing that Cam Newton's had a pretty decent return. Obviously, a 1-1 record so far, but one of those losses was to Seattle, who a lot of us were expecting to be like the best team in the NFC this year, or one of the best teams. So no shame in that. Is Cam Newton the front runner for comeback player of the year this season?
Another unanimous decision here. We all are agreeing to that. I'll say a quick thing or two, and then you guys can talk about it. But really, in my opinion, I think this is going to come down to either Cam or Ben. And for the first 2 weeks so far, I think even though the record isn't as good, I think Cam's played better than Ben has. And that's my reason. But what about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely obviously in agreement with Zach. I think when you talk about comeback player of the year, there's only really a few that can really, be in that discussion. I think They both played good, but Cam definitely has a better story than Ben after all what he went through, being a free agent and all that. And he really has looked great. The way I think, as far as I've seen, he's throwing the ball as good, if not better, than he has the rest of his career. So I think this is as good of a Cam Newton as we've seen since he's come in the league. So it's been exciting to watch so far.
I guess I'll say one quick thing about in regards to him versus Ben Roethlisberger. I think also what's going to put Cam Newton above Ben Roethlisberger is, like, I think the Steelers are going to, obviously the offense needs to be there, but the offense really just needs to be serviceable with the defense. And I think that's what the Steelers are going to be more known for again this year. Is like the defense is what is, the biggest part of us winning games. So I don't think Ben's going to be the exact reason why we're doing it. So I think Cam's got a much better opportunity.
All right, we'll move on to the next one.
All right, so we've talked about Rookie of the Year, talked about Comeback Player of the Year, and now we're going to start talking about our first of two for MVP. So 2 fantastic games by Josh Allen. I mean, it's like the first time a Bills quarterback is thrown for like over 400 yards in ages, and he's currently the league leader in passing yards at like a little over 700. So if the Bills, were to live up to expectations this year, is Josh Allen a sleeper candidate for the MVP? We've been talking about like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson, but is Allen a sleeper for the MVP?
Okay, well, got a lot of hype there from Connor, but we're all selling on this one. And I'll let I was a little bit surprised by Connor's pick since he has him on his fantasy team. So I want to hear Connor's reasoning for this.
Well, I hope he turns out to be the MVP because that'll be amazing for my fantasy team. But I think it's more so like I'm being cautious right now because the Bills, their 2 games have been against the Jets and the Dolphins. So it's not like they've played, the Chiefs and the Seahawks, right? You know. So I'm just being very cautious right now. Like I guess probably out of the 4 of us, I'm the most like leaning towards buying, but I'm not quite there yet. I need to see them play someone better.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll go to the next one now.
So, a very disappointing 0-2 start for the Philadelphia Eagles. A very kind of a collapse against Washington, and then obviously a loss to the Rams this week. So I'm pretty sure the reason why this has been worded like this, I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement that without Saquon Barkley, the Giants are going to be the worst team in the NFC East this year. But are the Eagles the 3rd best team in the NFC East after what you've seen in these first 2 weeks?
Covered you up again.
Oh, Nate covered me up. I guess that means he gets to talk. Are you Eric and Connor? Are you guys in the middle, like, or is this just not refreshed?
Mine's
okay.
I'm on bye.
Okay. So Eric's on the side of believing that with me and Nate, and then Connor's not buying that. So Nate, start us off on the bias section.
Yeah, I mean, as you've seen on here, I've been pretty bullish on Philadelphia this year, and they haven't quite lived up to it just yet, but I'm not really ready to call them failures quite yet. I definitely think they're the 3rd best team in the NFC East, at least. Obviously, we've seen the Giants haven't looked good, plus they just lost Saquon for the year. So, I mean, I don't know what their offense is going to be capable of going forward. So, I think the Eagles at least have to be better than them. I'm not going to say they're going to win the East now. I think Wentz has a lot to prove. It looked like it was just the O-line after week 1, but there's obviously some real concerns there with Wentz as well. So I don't know if I'm going to say that they're going to win the East anymore, but I think they're definitely at least the 3rd best team.
Okay, I think maybe you were more on the sell side, the way the question was worded. Because I believe
he was on the buy side because he said the 3rd best team. So
yeah. So Connor, why are you selling this?
So I am on the side of the sell that they're going to, I don't think they're worse than the Giants. I don't think they're the worst team, but I think they're still the second best team. I think the Eagles seem to be one of those teams that, like, it seems like they start the year very slow and then they come on towards the end. Like, that's kind of what happened last year. Like, Dallas was leading the division for most of the season, and then the Eagles went on this run at the end of the season and won like 2 or 3 in a row, and then they beat Dallas and won the division. So I think it's more so like they're just trying to find their bearings, and also I don't think Washington's going to keep up. Like, obviously they've got a fantastic defense, but I don't think the offense is going to be able to keep up, like, keeping them in games at all. Like, I just think that offense is too bad to even put up points. Like, it seems to me that, with that offense that, someone could just need to put up like 20 points and they'll win. So
yeah. All right, let's go on to the next one now. Hitting these rapid fire, guys.
All right. So, I don't think pretty sure a lot of us would have been surprised if you said that at the start of the year the Chicago Bears would be 2-0 right now. So given the fact that they are 2-0 and they are the Lions and the Vikings are 0-2, are the Bears the second best team in the NFC North this year?
Okay, a unanimous no to that statement. We're all selling that. Eric, haven't heard from you in a while. What made you join the sell side?
Yeah, so I was the only one that before the season didn't pick the Bears to get last in the division, but I'm still selling this because even though Minnesota hasn't looked good so far, Chicago has barely beaten the Giants and then only beat the Lions because of a drop touchdown. So I don't think they're good enough to be considered the second best in their division. I still think Minnesota has a good chance to overtake them. Now, if Kirk Cousins keeps playing like he did yesterday, then Chicago probably will be the second best team, but I just don't see Kirk Cousins being that bad all the time. So I still have Chicago as third best in the division, but I can't move on to second.
Yeah, like the to me the Bears have got to be like the worst 2-0 team in ever. Like with how lucky they got with their opening schedule and the luckiness against Detroit. Like, yeah, the Bears fans can enjoy it right now, but everything's going to come crashing down for you guys to play a
Two words: Mitchell Trubisky.
All right. And I know it's only a 4th round pick, but the Jaguars need them to start losing some games because we have their 4th round pick next year. So come on, Bears.
Well, I know you're not happy about that. The Rams are 2-0 right now since y'all got their 1st round pick.
I need them to start losing too. Come on.
But the Vikings are losing. Oh, that's good for us. We got a high 2nd round there.
Yeah. So Bears and Vikings opponents keep.
Honestly, just everybody lose. How about that?
Yeah.
We have like half the drafts in the next draft, anyways. So, all right. Off topic. Connor,
right. Well, it won't be quite off topic coming up here in a second. But the next topic we have is So a very close win over the Broncos and also a very close and somewhat controversial win over the Jaguars. Are the Titans, a lot of people thought coming into the season they were going to repeat as division champions and, possibly win another playoff game. Are the Titans overrated?
Okay.
Wow. I didn't expect that to go that way.
Yeah. As a Titans hater, I'll say it. They're definitely good. They're gonna win a lot of games close, but I don't think they're being. I don't think they're being underrated.
You mean overrated?
Or I mean overrated is what I mean. I think they're fairly rated, to be honest. You can listen to Brody Sports Talk's podcast. I agree with their assessment of the Titans in the power rankings. Nothing going to be too great with them, but I don't think they're getting the hype like KC and Baltimore and Seattle are. So I think they're fairly rated. Anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, as another Titans hater in the podcast, I have to agree with it. I don't think anybody's like screaming that the Titans are going to win the Super Bowl now or something because of their 2 wins. Now, if that was happening, then I'd definitely be buying it. But people, I think they're definitely a good team, like Zach said. I mean, and they should be respected. I think they are going to be a good team moving forward, but until people start screaming that they're going to win the Super Bowl besides Titans fans, then I'm not going to consider them overrated just yet.
Yeah.
All right. So we got two more topics here. I'm actually going to switch the order on these. I want to save the other one for last, but
Okay.
I'll talk about number 12 first. Lamar Jackson, 2 wins for the Ravens, 2 decent games. Is Lamar Jackson on track to become the first repeat MVP? And I don't know how long it's been since the NFL's had like a back-to-back MVP, but is he on track to do that for the first time in a long time?
Ooh.
Okay, so I was the only one that agreed with that. I'm buying that, and then everybody else is selling. So I'll start on the buy side. I don't necessarily. I wouldn't put all my money on this, but I mean the way his if you look at the MVP candidates, there's a couple legit ones out there, but the X factor for Lamar, and it's always going to be this, is his rushing. I mean, he's improving as a thrower, but he still gets the rushing. He's still going to get the rushing stats. His teams look the best, in my opinion, the first 2 weeks, and they really do have a chance to. I think he's got a good chance to do it. I wouldn't say it's like a lock or anything like that, but right now I probably would pick him as the MVP or second to the MVP. But that's a good spot to be in. You want to be still at the top of the MVP leaderboards at this point in the season, and I don't think there's any reason why he can't be. So I'm gonna buy this. What about you guys?
I guess being the AFC North guy in this group,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
going to sell it because I think mainly another thing of like I just want to see more. Like I think obviously I don't consider him the front runner right now. I'd consider Russell Wilson the front runner. I'm sure a lot of people would probably agree that Russell Wilson's the front runner, but I think it's mainly because his 2 games have come against like very bad defenses. I mean, I know before the season I kind of hyped up the Cleveland Browns defense, but after seeing them against the Ravens and then seeing them against the Bengals, the Browns really don't have that good of a defense. So there was that, and then also Houston doesn't have a great defense. So definitely want to see him play against a better defense, like play against somebody like Pittsburgh or Buffalo before I'm ready to believe that he's the front runner, possibly there for a repeat.
Yeah. All right, so let's get now to the final topic. It should be a fun one to talk about.
Yeah, so I wanted to leave this to the end since obviously this is a Jaguars question, and we got 2 Jaguars fans and one person who the Jaguars is their second favorite team on here. So given his performance in the first 2 games, there was a lot of talk going into the season that the Jaguars were tanking for Trevor. Has Gardner Minshew secured his future as the future quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah,
Eric, Nate, and myself are agreeing to that. We're buying that. Connor's selling it. Let's hear Connor first, and then we'll hear from everybody on this topic. But Connor, what made you not trust the mustache man?
Trust the mustache. I just have to see more, honestly. Like I know this is like kind of a little bit of a common theme with these things, but I mean, he's got to keep it up. Given what happened last year, when even though he played decently, the Jaguars just had a really bad season overall last year, and obviously the Jaguars, they beat Indianapolis and they came close to beating Tennessee, and Minshew's looked good in both games, but I think for him, it's really going to need to be a much better. Like he just has to keep it up. Because the Jaguars, there wouldn't have been those talks about tank for Trevor before the season if they already weren't very sold on him. So he's going to have to keep proving it and keep showing them that, yes, like I am the guy. Like you can trust me going forward. Build the team around me.
Okay. I'll lead off the hype train for Gardner Minshew here. I think he's already solidified himself as the franchise long-term starter for 2 reasons. One is his own abilities, and he's been playing very well recently, and really has shown a lot of improvements in his game. And the second reason being, I just don't think the Jags are going to be a bad enough team this year to get a top pick for one of the top 2 quarterbacks. And unless they did a trade up somehow, I just don't think that they're going to be drafting in the spots to get a replacing quarterback, because I think they're going to win more games and it's going to require to be that. But as far as his improvement, there's been 2 things that I was unsure about Minshew heading into the season, and one of those, really both of those, I've seen improvements in. One is not leaving. As far as his improvement, there's been 2 things that I was unsure about Minshew heading into the season, and one of those, really both of those, I've seen improvements in. One is not leaving the pocket. He's been much more comfortable in the pocket in both the games he's played in. That's a big thing for a franchise quarterback, is you got to be able to stay in the pocket. And 2, the arm strength. We don't see it a whole lot, but I mean, I don't think with Jay Gruden's offense that's really going to matter, because they have a really dynamic offense going on right now, which highlights his strengths and abilities. So the fact that they've changed the offense from the Nick Foles offense to the Gardner Minshew offense, you can see he did throw out that 45-yarder to Chark, but his accuracy has always been there. His decision-making, his clutchness, his leadership, all those things you like to see in a franchise quarterback, he already had, in my opinion. But the way Jay Gruden's been tailoring his offense for him, he's going to load up on stats. I mean, he's on pace for 48 touchdowns. I don't think that'll happen, but still off to a great start, and I wouldn't expect him to fall off, considering the offensive weapons on the team. But Eric and Nate, what else did I not say about this man?
This legend.
The man, the myth, the legend. I mean, Zach, I think, pretty much hit the nail on the head. But the biggest improvement that I've seen from him in these first 2 games compared to last year is that he's not making as many mistakes. Like, he did have a really bad one in that Titans game where he ran out of the pocket too long and ended up taking like a 20-yard sack.
Yeah.
Like that, that play was really bad. But other than that, he was pretty fantastic in that game. And because the one interception was like batted up in the air at the end of the game. So I don't blame that one on Minshew. So he's had the one legit interception in 2 games, but way more touchdowns. His completion percentage is way better than last year. And I know, like, Connor was talking about how bad the Jags were last year, but if you take out the games that Nick Foles played in, the Jaguars were 6-6 last year, which isn't that bad, especially seeing as how he was a 6th-round rookie last year that wasn't even expected to ever come off the bench. So, and he was in an offense that year that wasn't really tailored to his skill set, because the offense was more built around Foles, which was just pure pocket passing. But with Minshew's ability to, throw on the move and roll out and, do things like that, Jay Gruden has done a great job of building an offensive playbook around him. So I agree with Zach here that Minshew has earned his place.
I'll say this.
Starter. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll say this. He's earned. I'm not going to buy it just yet. But if I did have the disposable income to buy a jersey for him, because that's a really tough thing to do for a Jags fan, is buy a jersey of a player on the team.
Yeah,
but,
how many do you have now?
no current players. But
no, I was asking, like, how many do you have, like, that?
Former players.
I mean, I've only got 2 really bad ones, but Fournette.
Man, I've gone through some bad ones over the years.
Yeah,
so.
But yeah, no. If I were to get a jersey from this team, I'd get a Minshew one. But Nate, let me hear from you about Minshew. Why do you think he's the long term?
Yeah, I mean, you guys basically touched on most of the aspects, but definitely just watching him week in and week out, he definitely has, what it takes to be a starting quarterback. Obviously, he's not, a Mahomes or Russell Wilson, but he definitely has enough physical tools plus the intangibles, I think, to go out there and get it done on a weekly basis. And Obviously, you never know with this front office and administration what they're going to do, but I think the smart move is he's definitely earned the starting spot. I think the smart move is to build around him because obviously you're paying him only, like $750K a year. Imagine the kind of team you can build when you're playing, a legit, at least top 15 quarterback. That much money you can build. They can speed up their rebuild a whole heck of a lot faster if they go that route. So I'm definitely buying that.
Cool stuff. Definitely exciting to be a Jags fan right now. With the hope of
definitely the opposite of what you thought going into the season.
Yeah. For sure. All right, so let's now transition over to the lock board. I'll show you guys the standings here. So last week, Connor, like he said earlier, far and away did the best, getting a 9-point performance from his locks. I finished in second with 4 points, and Eric and Nate getting 1 pieces for themselves. Not very good. The total standings now, after 2 weeks, Connor is in a clear first place with 14 points, followed by myself in second with 10, Eric in third with 7, Nate struggling down there with just 3 points after 2 weeks on the lock board. So be interesting to see what he does this week with his locks. But Connor, review us, our listeners and viewers, about your locks that were all successful.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the one that got me started and the one that I completely stole from Zach, the Denver Nuggets over the Los Angeles Clippers. That was big time, especially since I was getting pretty worried in that game because the Clippers were actually winning for the Nuggets weren't looking great, but as the Nuggets seem to always do in these series when they're down 3-1, they seem to catch fire in the second half, and the ending score looked like they blew out the Clippers. So. Very happy about that. Oddly enough, out of all of these, the one that I was most nervous about was the KC over the Chargers one. That was a close game. I mean, Harrison Butker had to kick a 58-yard field goal twice. The ending sequence there was crazy. It was a 53-yarder. He lined up and made it, but then they got called for a false start, I think. So it backed him up to 58. Then he went and kicked the 58-yarder and made it, but then the Chargers called a timeout to ice him, so he had to make it a third time, and he made it. So good on Harrison Butker for that. And then the Rams kind of pretty easily handled the Eagles. So it was funny how Zach was talking about that this is the second week in a row that I've made a 5-point pick, and he's like, "You're better at picking 5-pointers than you are at 1-pointers." So, I mean, if that's the case, then I'll take it. So.
Yeah, that's good to be. So based off of last week's standings, we have the new draft order. Eric's going to be drafting first. So with round 1, pick 1, Eric, who are you going to be going with? I'll show the betting lines here on the screen.
Okay, I just want to familiarize myself real quick. So with the football games, is it
it's over 7?
To get 5 points, they have to be 7.5.
It has to be over 7. So there's actually only one 5-point NFL game right now.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it was 6.5. So
6 is the NBA is 6. The cutoff is 6.
Okay.
So the Nuggets Lakers is a 5-pointer.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I just don't really see any 5-point games that I try. I do apologize for not knowing because I worked all day. I didn't really get to look at it. So, let's see. All right. I wish the point was a little higher so that this would be a 5-pointer, but I just don't trust the way the Eagles have been playing right now, and so I'm going to take the Bengals to beat the Eagles.
Okay, so 3-point play there with the upset. Cincy over Philly is going to be round 1, pick 1. Nate, you've got the second pick. Where are you going to go with this one?
All right. So with this pick, I'm also going to go for an upset pick and take go to college football and take Kentucky over Auburn. I think week 1, both these SEC teams didn't get a chance to play, some FCS cupcakes. So I'm gonna give UK the advantage in this one.
Okay. It's my turn now. I missed out on the Nuggets last time, but I'm getting them this time for the 5-pointer. I think Denver is going to win Game 3 against the Lakers, so I'll take that 5-point NBA play all day. Connor, did I steal that from you?
No. Actually,
Okay.
My plan going into this was this is going to be my first pick, was to pick the other NBA game. I'm going to pick the Miami Heat to beat the Boston Celtics.
3-point play there for that. All right, so now we're going to round 2. Eric, start us off here for your next pick.
Okay, so for my second one here, I am going to take the football team to beat the Browns. Go football team.
All right, so a 3-point play there for the football team to beat the Browns. From Eric. Nate, let's hear your second lock.
All right, so for my second lock, I was just looking at it. What was I looking at? Okay, yeah, it was my second lock is gonna take Chicago over the Falcons.
Okay. A lot of 3-point games being picked here, with the Falcons being favored by 3.5. Let me see here. I've got the next pick. I'll stay with the 3-point picks. I'm going to take the Raiders over the Patriots next week.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to make Nate very happy.
I will say that
what are
line
your
is a
thoughts?
little bit. I do think that line is a little bit high. If we were doing straight up betting,
Oh,
I would
yeah.
definitely, go against that line. But
Well, I
I
don't
don't win
think
straight
you-
up.
I don't
We'll
think
see.
you would, but
No.
I would never bet against my team. But
Yeah, that's
for,
true.
for the general public. Okay, Connor, finish us off on round 2 here.
Yeah, man, this is a tough one. There's not like a lot of really clear-cut games, but I know I know I tend to do lots of 5-point plays, so I guess if I had to pick the most likely 5-pointer right now, for me, I'm going to take Army to beat Cincinnati.
Interesting, yeah. For being 2 ranked team, that's definitely a high
that seems like a pretty
Spread.
high spread for me for
Yeah.
2 ranked teams.
So potential 5-point play there if Army upsets Cincinnati. Eric, let's hear your third lock.
Okay, so I'm going to do another 3-pointer, and normally I do like a 1-pointer safe pick, but since I'm pretty behind now, I don't think I can.
Luxury
do
of being in the lead.
Yeah. I'm going to take the Packers to beat the Saints.
Okay, yeah, Sunday night
Seems
football.
doable. Seems doable.
Yeah, I just saw that the Raiders were beating the Saints 24-17 right now.
Okay.
So
I will say one thing about this game that's going on right now. This game is going so slow because every other play, there's a flag getting thrown. The refs need to kind of keep it in their pocket.
We'll get to see the ending though after we finish recording. That's
really.
All right, Nate. You've done a college pick and an NFL pick. Where are you going to go with your third round?
All right, so I'm gonna stay in the NFL. Those college lines I don't trust any of those. I think I'm gonna go. I definitely struggled with this one, but I do need to get some points made up to get back in the running. So I'm gonna go with the upset and take Denver over Tampa Bay.
Ooh.
Tampa Bay's been a little bit too shaky for my liking.
Well, it's going to be a September game in Denver, so you do have that on your side.
Yeah.
yeah, even though they lost to the Titans, but
They
Yeah,
lost to the
they got
Bears
a
last
backup.
year.
And they've got a backup
That's true.
quarterback in. But hey, it's September in Denver.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that trend still going since they've lost
God,
2 in a row?
every
in
time
September?
I brought that up, it's lost. So.
Maybe that's Zach's strategy here. He's got to
Zach Zach's almost like put a curse on the Broncos.
I put a curse on him. I put a curse on him, but we'll see. We'll see if it gets broken this time. Maybe, maybe not. All right, so I've got my third pick now up here, and this will be an interesting one. I'm going with a 5-pointer. Mississippi State over LSU. I'm going with.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that's got a high spread, but I think they've got a chance to pull off that upset. So no risk.
Defending national champions going down, according to Zach.
Yep, lock it.
All
right.
Well.
Okay, what's the final lock going to be?
So, as I mentioned before, this is the luxury of being in first place. I'm going to take a safe pick here, which nobody has done yet, but I am going to do that, and I just got to figure out which safe pick I want to do. But I guess I'm 1-1 doing this, so I'll take my survival pick, and I'm going to pick the Colts to beat the New York Jets.
Definitely a safe one for sure.
Yeah.
Connor, what are you, an idiot or something? Sam Darnold's going to light him up.
Sam Darnold was the GOAT, man.
Yep. So there you have it, guys. That is our lock board for week 3. So we'll get back to you next week to go over how these went and do another one of these. These are fun to do. I definitely enjoyed having the drafting process. But we're going to round out the show with some NBA talk. So if you're a diehard NBA fan, glad you stuck around with us. We're going to be talking about 2 major topics on this segment. One of them covering an upcoming series between the Celtics and Heat. Going to be Game 4 of that series in a couple days from now, and we're going to talk about the collapse of the Clippers losing Game 7. Everybody expected them to make it to the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers, and that didn't happen. And to lose the way they did was quite shocking, but we'll talk about what's going to be next for them, how they went out, and everything with the Clippers. But first, I want to start off with the series, the Eastern Conference Finals, Celtics Heat. So I originally picked Celtics in 7, and I'm going to keep that prediction. To me, the biggest X factor for the Celtics for the rest of the series is Gordon Hayward. He missed the first 2 games. He did come back in the 3rd game, and they won it quite easily. But what really scares me is them blowing leads, because they've blown leads in really all the games to this point against the Heat. The Heat are a scary team. I definitely think if they win this Game 4, then they're going to win the series. But I trust the Celtics with Tatum, and Marcus Smart has been shooting it unbelievable in the bubble. I know he didn't have a great Game 3, but he's been making a lot of big shots for him. So I just think the Celtics are the more talented team between the two. I think getting Hayward back is another big score for them that they're going to appreciate. And the Heat, I think, are starting to slow down a little bit. And also, too, there is a break between like 3 or 4 days between games. So that's another advantage to the Celtics to rest up and really regroup for this really important Game 4. But this has been a fun series to watch in general. Game 1 had a crazy block by Bam Adebayo. That was insane. But Eric, since you're the other big NBA host on our show, where do you see this series going? What do you originally think between these 2 teams, and where do you think things will go now?
Whoa. That's some noise action going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had, going into the series, I actually had the Heat in 7. So I was like you in the sense that I felt like it was going to be a long series, but I had the Heat squeaking it out at the end, because I picked them just because of how hot they were coming into the series. I feel like everybody's been doubting them, because even in their first round series against the Pacers, I had the Pacers winning that series in 7, and obviously that didn't even come close to happening. And then of course everybody picked the Bucks to beat them for the most part, and of course they beat them too. So I have to give the Heat a lot of credit for getting to where they've been at, but Boston, even though they're down 2-1, it seems like they've played better throughout the majority of the 3 games. But like Zach said, they've blown some leads, and that's what is concerning for them. But they seem to do a lot better in Game 3 after they got Gordon Hayward back from the injury. I mean, he's definitely not worth his price tag long term for the Celtics, but he makes enough of a difference to help them in this series. But I am also going to agree with Zach here in the sense that Game 4 is obviously going to be huge and determining what's going to happen going forward, because if Miami wins the game, it's just so unlikely that Boston will come back from being down 3-1. I mean, obviously Denver's done it
unless their name
already.
is the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, obviously Denver's done it twice already. I mean, it's obviously not impossible to happen, but they did have that big whole yelling match in the locker room after they lost Game 2, and when that happened, I thought they were done. But they came out in Game 3 and dominated. So if I had to pick right now, I would switch it to Boston in 7. But Game 4 is just so critical, man. That's going to be such a huge determining factor for what happens, because if Boston wins, I already said what happens if Miami wins it. But if Boston wins it, then that's 2 in a row that they've won and puts all the momentum on their side. So I'm excited about it. This series has been better than I thought it was going to be, for sure.
Yeah, it's been a fun series. Connor and Nate, do you guys want to add anything to this?
Well, I guess alluding to my lock from before. I mean, I at the beginning had the Heat in 7, and I'm going to pull an Eric like last year with the Raptors in the finals. I'm going to stick with my original pick of the Heat in 7. I mean, for me...
But then you got to pick the Celtics to win every game.
Yeah, right.
Because Eric originally picked the Warriors to win the series, but then proceeded to pick the Raptors to win every single game.
I did.
Sorry.
I just had to say that. Bizarre turn of events there.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it seems like to me that, I mean, it just seems like the Heat are, we always talk about it sometimes, it's like, the team of destiny. I think the Heat are the team of destiny. I mean, like Eric said, they came in severely underrated. Like, I mean, I still had them beating the Pacers, but there obviously were people that had the Pacers beating them. And I mean, knowing everybody knows where I stand on like Giannis and the Bucks, so I obviously had the Bucks beating them. And to see them, I mean, even the fact that, like, because obviously Giannis didn't play, he didn't play Game 5 and he didn't play the majority of Game 4, but the way that they, really handled the Bucks in those first 3 games with Giannis out there was just really impressive to me. So I got to give it to the Heat. They've been playing well. Goran Dragic has been playing out of his mind. I mean, I never would have thought that going into this that, I mean, honestly, the Heat's MVP right now probably is Dragic. I mean, Butler's obviously been great too, but if it wasn't for Dragic doing as well as he has, they wouldn't be where they are. So, and the younger guys are stepping up, like Bam Adebayo, like you said, with that big block. I think the biggest key for the Heat really is Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero really need to, I think they need to cut down a little bit on the 3-point shooting, because I've just seen these situations where, like, especially Duncan Robinson will, like, he'll just be going on the run, like going off to the side, and then he'll just like jack up a 3-pointer. I'm like, that's really not what you shouldn't be doing that. Like, that's not the best play you can find. It's not like, they're running down the shot clock either. I mean, if you're down to like 2 seconds in the shot clock, then fine, but he'll do that when there's still like 10 seconds left on the shot clock. And it's like, you should probably be looking for something else. So if Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero can cut down on taking so many threes, I mean, if they're going to make them, then fine, but they haven't been making them for the most part. So if they can cut down on that, if the Heat can just continue to really just do what they've been doing, I think the Heat take Game 4, and then, maybe the Celtics win one more game after that. But I think the Heat take the series still.
Okay, yeah. Nate, I do want to hear from you, being a Celtics supporter. What are your thoughts on this series?
Yeah, I mean, so I really haven't watched too much of the actual games. I've just seen, like, the recaps and some of that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. The Heat definitely surprised me coming into these playoffs. Not that I took them lightly after seeing what they did in their last series, but I thought the Celtics would come out a little bit more ready to go, at least the first 2 games, and they were close, but they just have to, I guess, finish better down the stretch. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be definitely an interesting series. What is 2-1 right now?
Yeah, 2-1 Heat.
Yeah, 2-1 Heat. So, yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I think it's gonna go. I think they'll end up going to 7 games. I think the teams are pretty matched talent-wise, but we'll see. The Celtics make the right adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, I picked them at the start of the bubble to make it to the finals, so I'm still expecting that. And then also, too, we're going to finish the show. If you're watching on YouTube, you see 2 clowns on the screen here. That's Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So the Clippers had an epic collapse, and the 2 superstars are getting a lot of the blame for it. I'll start with Kawhi. He had a really bad Game 7, scoring only like 14 points, bad shooting night, and really to it, because a lot of people have been comparing Kawhi to LeBron and putting him on that like best player on the planet sort of stratosphere. And to me, this is really reminding me of when LeBron lost in the finals to the Mavericks, when everybody thought they were going to win that series. He was going to get a ring. I don't think everybody thought the Clippers were going to win the championship, but everybody thought they'd at least make it to the Western Conference Finals, especially being up 3-1 on the Nuggets. I thought everybody was like, okay, we're getting Clippers-Lakers, But the thing is the Clippers never finished out any of those games. They had double-digit leads in all of them in the second half. They blew them all. The Nuggets caught on fire. And Kawhi, he didn't play as bad as Paul George, but still being the best player in that team, you're going to take the majority of the criticism there. And it's going to be real interesting to see the Clippers do next season with making some moves and stuff. I don't think Kawhi is real happy with Paul George. To be honest, I could see them moving on from Paul George and finding some trade out there or something. But yeah, it's with Doc Rivers and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, it's next season is championship or bust. I know Paul George said it wasn't championship or bust, but other guys said it was, and he even said it was like a month before he said it wasn't. So Paul George is getting clowned by everybody right now. I mean, playoff P, people are calling him pandemic P. He's just, to me, Paul George is all talk, and then when it comes to the playoffs, he never really shows up. Never made it past the first round in OKC, even though he had Russ as his teammate. This series, he was terrible really all series long against the Nuggets, and had a terrible Game 7. So I'm not a Paul George believer, and I'm not going to pick the Clippers. If they stay status quo next year, I'm not picking the Clippers to make it out of the West. I just think they gotta. They just can't be as complacent as they were, and that's the thing. They were complacent against Denver, and they just expected to win. But I blame both Kawhi and Paul George. I blame Doc Rivers. I really blame this more on the Clippers than giving the Nuggets credit. The Nuggets did pretty good, but really the Clippers have no excuse to how they blew this series. I was quite thrilled to see it happen, but the Clippers, God, this is one of the worst upsets in NBA history, in my opinion. But Eric, what else do you want to add on to this? What else do you think the Clippers?
Obviously, going into the season, I was the biggest believer in the Clippers out of the group, but obviously that's changed now. I mean, I was a Paul George fan when he was on the Thunder because Russ got all the credit for like getting all the triple doubles and all that stuff. I've talked about triple doubles ad nauseum on this podcast. Now I think they're overrated, but Russ was getting all the credit for that when really I thought that Paul George was by far the better player on the team. So I was sad to see him get traded. But after this performance in the playoffs, I mean, my opinions on him have just completely changed. I mean, he was so terrible throughout the whole playoffs in general. Not even just the series against the Nuggets. I mean, Kawhi straight carried them to get to even where they got. And I mean, yeah, Kawhi didn't have a good game 7, and maybe Kawhi got a little overrated, but he was by far the better player, of the duo on this team. I mean, Paul George had games where he just disappeared, and when you're the number 2 guy on a team, then you got to play better than that. You can't. He kind of became the Kyle Lowry, our like.
Really. He is the new Kyle Lowry.
You need to make a milk carton with Paul George's face on it.
Yeah, I mean, because Kyle Lowry.
Please return to Doc Rivers if found.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry actually had a pretty decent playoff run this time, especially compared to what he usually does in the playoffs. So, but Paul George was just awful. And talking about the must-win thing, or like the championship or bust thing, like, how does he not view that as championship or bust? This team acquired Kawhi Leonard, who's a 2-time Finals MVP, and they acquired Paul George himself, who they gave up like 5 first-round draft.
They don't have
a pick swaps.
Well, I'll say this: their next first-round pick is going to be a 6th grader right now.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm serious. 2027.
Well, I mean, that's not like they had to give up, because you can't trade first-round picks like in consecutive years. So the other ones they gave up were picks they'd acquired from the Heat, but still, they gave up 5 first-round draft picks and 2 swaps with the Thunder and 2 really pretty good players to get Paul George. I mean, if I found out if I'm a pretty good player in a league and I find out a team gave all that up to get me, my mentality is, well, we better win the championship, because they gave up almost every asset possible to get me. We need to win this thing. And for him to say it wasn't championship or bust, that's a soft mentality to me. I don't respect players that have soft mentalities like that. And not to say that like anxiety isn't a serious thing. Like, I know people who have anxiety, and I like to take anxiety seriously, but I had a little trouble believing Paul George earlier in the playoffs when he kept talking about how the reason why he was having bad games was because he was having anxiety. I'm like, you've been in the NBA a long time. You've made a ton of money. I had trouble believing it. And part of the excuse was, I'm in the bubble, and here I'm stuck here in Orlando, and, miss my family. But all the players are missing their families. All the players are having to deal with the same situation.
Well, the families got to come to the games tue. Like, there towards the end, like, he got to see his family. Like, they're allowing the families there now.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I've had conversations with Susan about this. I said, hey, Susan, if I had to have a situation where, I had to be gone for 3 months, like, I know you would miss me and everything, but when I came back, if I was going to bring $30 million, do you think you'd be okay if I was gone?
Bring me back in.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like it was just a bunch of excuses, and I mean, and plus just to get waxed like that too in Game 7. I mean, my God. I mean, they were up by 2 at the half, which obviously that's not a big lead or anything, but still, like, you were having a decent game up until halftime, and then in the second half, it's like you went on the milk carton. Like, both you and Kawhi Leonard just disappeared in the second half of that game. And honestly, I was glad I stopped watching it, because like once the Nuggets got up by like 14, I put on video games. So I was like, well, it's probably I was like, maybe I should watch. Comeback could happen, but I switched on the PS4.
I will say, for the Clippers' sake too, like, they're really lucky that they didn't lose by more, because the beginning of that fourth quarter, like, the Clippers weren't hitting anything, but they were lucky the Nuggets weren't hitting anything either. So like that game,
Jokic
could
was
have
on the
been
bench
a lot
for
worse.
Jokic was on the bench for like 5 minutes. If he was in there instead of Plum Bum, like, they would have done a lot better. Yeah, I mean, after the defense he played on AD last game, I had to call him that. But
this kind of turned into a rant here, which I wasn't fully expecting to go.
Hey, you're the ranting co-host, man.
But I don't know, man. I don't respect people that are making $30 million plus that just have this soft mentality, like, oh well, it's a tough environment. I have to play them, and there's no fans, and I have anxiety, and it's just like excuse after excuse after excuse, and it's like, and they didn't even get to the Lakers, so I don't know, man. It's not like they lost to the Lakers really bad or something. Like
to me, it's like a bit of karma, really, because him and Patrick Beverley were the ones like laughing at Dame for missing the free throws that cost them in the regular season bubble, and obviously that was bad by Dame, but still the fact that him and Patrick Beverley, who both got sent home by buzzer beaters in the playoffs to Dame from Dame in their past, the fact that they were laughing and making jokes about it and saying like, "Oh, you're going to Cancun" and stuff, like to me that was all karma, because they were just laughing and laughing it up. The team was never a team with the Clippers when you think about it. Lou Williams was gone for the first part of the bubble with the suspension. Montrezl Harrell was never the same when he came back. He was never really in great shape, great conditioning. And Kawhi was there. He wasn't there in Game 7, but the rest of the team, to me, it didn't feel like a team. It was just a bunch of really good players who hadn't really played well as a team. And
sounds like the Browns from last year in the NFL.
Yeah, you're really. But
getting on the Lou Williams thing too. I mean, this guy said, correct me if I'm wrong, Zach. I think you were talking about this, but he said that he felt like the reason why they lost was because they didn't have a good team chemistry.
Yeah.
But how are you going to say that when you were going to strip clubs and stuff and then getting out of the bubble, which was causing you to then have to quarantine to then not play with the team? Like, what a selfish thing too. Like, a strip club? It's like, come on, dude. Like, do you really want to win a championship or not?
I know.
I'm shocked there was honestly a strip club even open with COVID anyway.
Yeah, really.
But I don't know, dude. Shit, I felt like there was something else. I got caught up on the Lou Williams thing. I felt like there was something else I was going to say. If it hits me, I'll say it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just more mad too, because I believed in the Clippers and thought they were going to go all the way, and then they turned into this embarrassing performance.
Yeah, and notice too how we're talking all about the Clippers here. Like, the Nuggets did a great job, but I think we all agree like the Clippers choked this more than the Nuggets beat them.
Well, I mean,
right?
Anytime you're up 3-1 in a series and you let the other team come back, like that's. I mean, it's not it's not like they were only up 3-2 or they were down 2-1 or down whatever and managed to fight back, but then lost Game 7. Like, no, they were up 3-1. Like, the Nuggets had to win 3 games in a row to come back from it, and you blew it all 3 times. Like, you only needed to win once, whereas they needed to win 3 times.
and leads in every game. Eric, did you remember what you were gonna say?
Not yet.
Okay, well, we're getting.
I know we're
getting
wrapping
close.
up. But...
Yeah, we're getting close to the wrapping it up time. But maybe Eric will tweet whatever firestorm he was gonna say.
I just. As you can tell, I'm pretty worked up about this.
Yeah, well, it's been a while since we had a good old Eric rant, so I was happy to hear it.
And it was just nice because most of my recent rants were about the Jaguars. So
finally you got one that wasn't about your team.
Yeah.
So that's gonna wrap this show up, guys. Thanks to everybody for listening and watching. We'll be back with you guys with another episode next week. Same format, same stuff. So catch y'all then, and remember, be clutch.
Bye.
Peace. See ya.